Picture a machine older than the operator running it. Rust on the paint, 30 years on the clock, and it still fires up on the first turn and digs like it has something to prove. While brand new excavators sit dead in the yard waiting on a computer reset, these old beasts just keep swinging. Operators who've run everything still take their hats off to them. Steel that refuses to die. Here are 10 legends that earned that respect. Number 10. Poclain TY45, 1961. If you want to understand why modern operators respect old iron, you have to start with the machine that basically invented the shape of every excavator working today. The Poclain TY45. Poclain was a French company founded back in 1927 by Georges Bataille. Not the philosopher, but an engineer chasing agricultural mechanization. By the early 1950s, the company had built its first hydraulic digging machines, but in 1961 they launched something that changed the entire industry. The TY45 was the first excavator with full 360-degree rotation on a hydraulic slew. Before this, if you wanted to swing a load around, you were fighting cable machines with limited movement. The TY45 could spin all the way around, and suddenly the job got faster, smoother, and far more versatile. Now here's the part that makes people laugh when they first see one. The TY45 sat on a strange three-wheeled tricycle-style undercarriage, two small wheels at the front for steering and a rigid setup at the back. The Y in the name actually referred to that three-point stability layout, and the 45 was roughly the horsepower. It looks bizarre next to a modern tracked machine, almost like something a cartoonist drew, but don't let the odd looks fool you. This machine was a monster success. It was marketed in over 120 countries, and across a production run of around 21 years, roughly 30,000 units were built. That is a staggering number for an excavator of that era. You still find them tucked away on farms across France and Britain, and many of them still run. And it's worth understanding just how quickly Poclain got to this point. They'd started in the excavator business back in 1948, building a loader unit on a Dodge 4x4 chassis. Then came the TU in 1951, a hydraulic excavator mounted on a two-wheel trailer and powered by the towing tractor, of which over 1,000 were sold. A redesign, the TO, followed in 1956. By 1961, the company's 10th year in the trade, they'd cracked the code with full rotation. That's a decade from towed contraption to industry-defining machine. When you consider how conservative heavy equipment usually is, that pace of innovation is remarkable. Operators respect the TY45 because it was the proof of concept. It showed the world that a fully rotating hydraulic excavator wasn't a gimmick, it was the future. Every operator sitting in a slewing cab today is sitting in the great-grandchild of this weird little French machine. The old boys who ran them will tell you they were tough, they were simple, and they earned their keep. Poclain later got swallowed by Case, and the excavator brand slowly faded. But the DNA lives on in every digger on every site. That's why it opens our list. Respect starts at the beginning. Number 9. Bucyrus-Erie 20H, 1965. While the French were revolutionizing Europe, America had its own heavyweight learning to swing hydraulics, Bucyrus-Erie. Now Bucyrus was already a legend before it ever built a hydraulic excavator. Founded in 1880, this was the company that built the giant steam shovels that dug the Panama Canal. This was American heavy industry at its absolute peak. But by the 1960s, the writing was on the wall. Cable excavators were being outclassed by hydraulics, and even the giants had to adapt or die. In 1965, Bucyrus-Erie unveiled the 20H, the first of a brand new range of crawler-mounted, fully revolving hydraulic excavators. The 3/4-yard 20H was powered by Cummins, or GM diesel engines, making around 106 horsepower, and it weighed about 19 tons in operation. For its day, it was a modern-looking machine with a low-profile engine house, an isolated operator's cab, and a ball-bearing swing circle. But here's the fascinating detail that operators and historians love. That early 20H still showed its cable excavator roots. The hydraulic propel motor was mounted up in the upper works, with drive sent down to the crawlers through the center pintle via shafts and gears, and steering handled by air-operated clutches and brakes. In other words, it was a company figuring out hydraulics in real time, one machine at a time, Bucyrus-Erie kept refining it. They added the 15H, the 30H, and by 1970 the 3-yard 40H, a 60-ton machine. By the time the 40H rolled out, they'd wised up and put an independent hydraulic motor in each crawler frame, dumping the clunky old clutch steering setup. Then in 1975 came the 350H, a 46-ton backhoe with high-pressure variable displacement piston pumps, genuinely state-of-the-art for the time. There's also a bigger strategic story here. Bucyrus-Erie saw the hydraulic wave coming so clearly that back in the mid-1960s, it entered a joint venture with Komatsu of Japan to develop hydraulic excavators, a fascinating early crossing of American and Japanese engineering that says a lot about how seriously the old guard took the threat. Operators respect the H-series because it represents a proud American manufacturer refusing to become a museum piece. These machines were overbuilt, heavy, and honest. Bucyrus itself would eventually come full circle. Decades later, it was absorbed by Caterpillar in 2010. But the 20H stands as the moment a steam shovel dynasty proved it could learn new tricks. Number 8. Hitachi UH07, 1973. Now we head to Japan, to a machine that a whole generation of operators learned their trade on, the Hitachi UH07. Hitachi had already made history in 1965 with the UH03, the first hydraulic excavator manufactured in Japan. That little machine weighed just over 8 tons, swung a 0.35 cubic meter bucket, and ran an Isuzu 4-cylinder diesel making around 50 horsepower. What's telling is that even that first effort looked remarkably like the excavators of today. Hitachi got the fundamental layout right almost immediately. It was easy to operate even for a novice, which mattered enormously, because training a cable excavator operator to a good standard used to take years. But it was the UH series that followed, which really put Japanese iron on the global map. The UH06 arrived in 1968, a 12-ton machine with an Isuzu 6-cylinder diesel. And then in 1973 came its successor, the UH07, and this one was a genuine hit. The UH07 was roughly an 18-ton class machine. It was powered by a 100-horsepower Hino DS 56-cylinder diesel, and the standard bucket was about 1 cubic meter. It arrived at exactly the right moment when contractors all over the world were finally abandoning cable excavators and switching to hydraulic machines. The UH07 gave them a reliable, well-built option that just worked. It went through several upgrades across its life, the UH07-3 and UH07-5 versions, and its bigger stablemate, the UH09, ran the same Hino engine at a higher rating. Talk to operators who ran these, and you'll hear the same things. They were solid, dependable, and simple to understand. Were they perfect? No. Guys who kept them running for decades point out the weak travel motors, and the center joint repairs could be a genuine nightmare because they used steel lines instead of hoses. Parts availability today is thin, so if you own one, you're often hunting used components. But here's the thing, they're still out there working. Machines built in the late 70s and 80s are still turning up in yards, still running breakers, still sizing concrete. When a 40-year-old excavator is still earning a paycheck, that's not luck, that's engineering. The UH07 earns its respect because it was one of the machines that proved Japanese manufacturers weren't just cheap imports, they were building iron that could go toe-to-toe with anyone and outlast most of them. Number 7. Caterpillar 225, 1972. You cannot make a list about respected excavators without Caterpillar. And Cat's whole hydraulic excavator story starts with one machine, the 225. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. Caterpillar was actually a late arrival to the hydraulic excavator party. By the time Cat got serious, competitors like Kohring, Link-Belt, and Warner & Swasey already had machines on the market, and Japanese builders like Hitachi, Komatsu, and Kato were pushing hard. Cat was not about to sit that out. In great secrecy during 1968, Caterpillar's engineers began studying layouts, engines, and configurations. They tested prototypes at the Arizona Proving Grounds in 1970, and by 1972 the first customer-ready machine, the 225, was launched. The 225 was a 24-ton machine powered by a 135 flywheel horsepower Caterpillar 3208 V8 diesel. It used a two-section variable displacement hydraulic pump with load proportioning to power the main functions. The whole engine and pump assembly was tucked into a very square, boxy car body with access doors on every side and even opening roof panels so mechanics could actually get at the machine's insides. The undercarriage was pure Caterpillar, riding on 22-inch triple Grouser shoes as standard. The 225 became the foundation of CAT's entire 200 series, which grew to include the 215, 235, and the big 245. There's an interesting wrinkle in that family too. The smaller model 215, introduced in 1976, wasn't actually designed by Caterpillar at all. It was designed and built by Deere, a German manufacturer, at CAT's new facilities in Gosselies, Belgium. It was a bit underpowered and never quite lived up to the badge. But the core machines, the 225, 235, and 245, were pure Caterpillar, and they set the tone. This was the machine that told the world Caterpillar was in the excavator business for good, and they were going to do it the CAT way, overbuilt, serviceable, and built to run. Operators respect the 225 because it launched a dynasty. The 200 series machines earned a reputation for durability that CAT still trades on today. When an old-school operator talks about a proper CAT excavator, this is where it all began. It revolutionized what was possible on their job sites, lifting, digging, and loading more effectively than the cable machines it replaced. Number 6. O&K RH6, 1970s. Let's cross back to Germany for a machine from one of the true pioneers of this entire industry, Orenstein and Koppel, O&K, and the RH6. O&K's history is genuinely staggering. The company was founded way back in 1876 by Benno Orenstein and Arthur Koppel, and it started out building narrow-gauge railway track, wagons, and locomotives in Berlin. They produced their first steam shovel in 1908, their first crawler-mounted steam excavator in 1922, and switched from steam to diesel power in 1926. By the 1970s, this was a heavy industry powerhouse. In 1972 alone, O&K ran 5 plants across West Germany and employed more than 8,500 people. This was one of only a handful of excavator manufacturers on Earth that successfully made the leap from cable-operated machines all the way to modern hydraulics, and that transition is exactly where a lot of famous names quietly died. O&K introduced its first hydraulic excavator, the RH5, in 1961, the very same year as the Poclain TY45, two of the industry's defining machines born the same year on opposite sides of a border. The RH6 that followed in the 1970s was a compact, tough, working-class hydraulic excavator. When enthusiasts stumble on original working examples decades later, they marvel that the things still run in their original condition. O&K built these machines with proper German engineering, the kind of build quality that lets a machine sit outside for 40 years and still fire up. And here's what really sets O&K apart. They didn't just build small and mid-sized diggers. They became legends in mining, building enormous machines like the RH120 and the giant RH200. Hydraulic mining shovels that stripped overburden at open-cast coal sites and moved earth on a scale most operators will never witness in person. When you respect the RH6, you're respecting a whole lineage that went all the way up to some of the biggest hydraulic excavators ever built. The O&K story has a bittersweet ending. The company was broken up and sold off. The mining division eventually went to Bucyrus, which in turn went to Caterpillar in 2010. The construction line ended up under CNH, but operators who ran O&K iron speak about it with real affection. It was precise, it was strong, and it was built by people who had been perfecting excavators for a full century. Number 5. John Deere 690B, 1979. Now to a machine that became the definition of the honest, hard-working, no-nonsense excavator in North America. The John Deere 690B. The 690 line is the heritage of John Deere's construction excavator family. The 690B, built from roughly 1979 to 1984, sat right in that sweet spot of mechanical era simplicity, before the heavy electronic engine controls and emissions-rated complexity of the modern era arrived. It was a mid-size machine with around 21 feet of digging depth, and depending on configuration, it ran in the high 30,000-pound range for operating weight. Contractors used them for foundations, ditching, and general dirt work, and they just kept going. Here's what modern operators love about the 690 platform. Parts. Because the 690, 690B, 690C, 690D, and 690E all share so much across the family. And because some components even cross over with the later 200 series and with Hitachi machines, you can keep these things alive. That parts availability is exactly why heritage 690 machines are still earning a paycheck at independent contractors on rural sites and in farm fleets to this day. And that Hitachi connection is no accident. John Deere and Hitachi had been working together since the 1960s, and by 1983, they had a supply agreement where Hitachi built whole excavators wearing Deere colors. That partnership eventually became the famous Deere-Hitachi joint venture in 1988. So when you run an old Deere excavator, you're often running a machine with serious Japanese hydraulic engineering underneath the green and yellow paint. Best of both worlds. Operators respect the 690B because it represents dependable, fixable, mechanical simplicity. It's the kind of machine you can diagnose with your ears and your hands instead of a laptop. In a world of increasingly complicated iron, that's worth a lot, and it's exactly why these old Deeres refuse to retire. Number 4. Komatsu PC200-1, 1981. Say the words 20-ton excavator to almost any operator on Earth, and there's a decent chance the machine that pops into their head traces its bloodline back to this one. The Komatsu PC200. Komatsu had deep roots to draw on. The company started building diesel engines back in 1948, and in 1961 it signed a technology tie-up with America's Cummins Engine Company that would eventually power a huge chunk of its lineup. Komatsu introduced its first hydraulic excavator, the H51, in 1967 and ramped up hydraulic excavator production the following year. But it was the PC200 designation that became one of the most important model names in the entire history of the industry. The PC200-1, the very first of the dash number series, was built from 1981 to 1984. It was an 18.5-ton machine with about a 0.9 cubic meter bucket, riding on 610mm track shoes. On paper, nothing dramatic. In reality, it launched a legend. The PC200 became the global benchmark for the 20-ton class. The size of machine that does more work worldwide than any other. General construction, utilities, road work, trenching, light quarry work. If there was dirt to move, a PC200 could move it. And Komatsu just kept refining the formula through the -3, -5, -6, -7 and beyond, each one a little more capable, a little more efficient, but all carrying that same reputation for toughness. What operators respect about the early PC200 is the balance. Komatsu nailed the combination of power, hydraulic smoothness, stability, and crucially, durability. These machines were built to shrug off tough conditions, extreme temperatures, and heavy loads, and they held their value because everybody knew they'd keep running. Komatsu's engine partnership with Cummins, which dated back to 1961, meant the power plants underneath were serious hardware too. The PC200 name is so trusted that it's still the model designation Komatsu uses for its 20-ton excavators today, generations later. When a model number survives more than 4 decades, that's not marketing, that's a machine that earned the badge every single day. The old dash ones that started it all are the reason. Number 3. Liebherr R912, 1980s. Time for a machine from the company that actually gave Europe its very first hydraulic excavator, Liebherr. The Liebherr story is one of the great origin tales in this industry. In 1953, a builder named Hans Liebherr hired a cable excavator and was frustrated by its terrible power-to-weight ratio. So he did what legends do, he went and built something better. Just 8 months later, he presented the L300, the first hydraulic excavator in Europe, and it was 4 times lighter than the machine he'd rented. Series production began in 1954. An entire global heavy equipment empire grew out of one man's irritation with a bad rental. By the time we get to the R900 series, including the R912, Liebherr had decades of hydraulic know-how baked into every casting. The R912 became a workhorse of European job sites through the 1980s and beyond, and it's the machine a lot of operators point to when they talk about classic Liebherr reliability. Later versions wore the Litronic name, reflecting Liebherr's electronic engine and hydraulic management that was genuinely advanced for its time. What earns Liebherr its respect is precision and build quality. Liebherr famously designs and manufactures its own key components, including hydraulics, rather than buying them off the shelf. That vertical integration shows in how these machines feel to run, controlled, refined, and built to extremely tight standards. Operators talk about the smoothness and the sheer solidity. You still see R912s and their siblings working hard across Europe, often paired with tilt rotators and modern attachments, decades after they left the factory. The R912 makes our top 3 because it represents the marriage of pioneering heritage and relentless engineering discipline. Liebherr didn't just enter the hydraulic excavator market. They opened the door to it in Europe and then spent the next several decades proving they belonged at the very top. Number 2. Caterpillar 245, 1974. Now we come to a machine that old-school operators speak about with something close to reverence. The Caterpillar 245. Introduced in 1974, the 245 was the biggest of Caterpillar's first-generation 200 series excavators, the heavyweight champion of the family that the 225 had started 2 years earlier. And this thing was a beast. In its later form, it carried an operating weight of more than 145,000 pounds, around 56 tons. It was powered by a Caterpillar 3406 diesel, a 6-cylinder turbocharged and aftercooled engine displacing 893 cubic inches, putting out 325 flywheel horsepower at 2100 RPM. It had a maximum reach of more than 40 feet, a digging depth approaching 26 feet, and bucket capacities running from 2 up to 3 3/4 yards. The 245 was aimed squarely at mining, quarrying, and heavy construction, and it was immediately well received. It ran a variable flow hydraulic system, hydrostatic track drives, and oil-cooled disc brakes. The counterweights were mounted low so mechanics could get at the rearmost engine bay doors easily, because CAT understood that a machine this size lives or dies on how easy it is to service. There was even a mass excavator version with a beefed-up stick 42% heavier than standard for handling serious loads. Here's why it lands at number 2. Go on any digger enthusiast forum or page, and you will find old-school operators talking about the 245 and the whole 200 series as legendary. It had a nearly 14-year production run before being replaced by the 245B in 1988. Operators describe it as a good, reliable, operator-friendly machine. Yes, it could be thirsty on fuel. A 325-horse engine of that era wasn't sipping diesel, but it was built to last, easy to operate, and it got the job done without drama. The 245 is the machine that cemented Caterpillar's reputation in the big excavator world. It's a genuine legend, and the respect it commands from the men who ran it is completely earned. Number 1. Hitachi EX200, 1985. And at number 1, a machine that might be the single most influential mid-size excavator ever built, the Hitachi EX200. When the EX series launched in the mid-1980s, it set a new standard for what a 20-ton class excavator should be, and the EX200 became the machine everyone else measured themselves against. It was around a 20-ton class crawler, powered by a Hino diesel with digging depth in the 6-meter range and a bucket around 0.8 cubic meters. On the spec sheet, it sounds ordinary. In the real world, it was anything but. The EX200 earned a reputation for being reliable, smooth, and most importantly, nearly indestructible. Ask around and you'll hear the same phrase over and over. Japan-made, runs and works great, 100% ready to work. These machines are still bought and sold globally today, decades after they were built, and they still command real money precisely because buyers trust them. When a used excavator from the 1980s and 90s is still a desirable, dependable purchase in a world full of modern machines, that tells you everything. It helped that Hitachi had been quietly building expertise for years before the EX line. The company had rolled out the world's first fully hydraulic crawler crane, the KH150, back in 1971, and had spent the 70s refining hydraulic control to a fine art. By the time the EX200 arrived in the mid-1980s, that accumulated knowledge showed in how predictable and controllable the machine felt on the levers, the kind of refinement that keeps an operator productive through a 10-hour shift without wearing them out. But here's what pushes the EX200 to the very top. This is the machine that became the John Deere 200. Remember the Deere-Hitachi partnership? The EX200's design and its descendants form the backbone of one of the best-selling excavator lineages in North American history. When you see a John Deere 200 LC on a site, you're looking at the legacy of the EX200. Parts still cross-reference between them. Long-reach booms and buckets are still built to fit John Deere 200 Hitachi EX200 as a single platform. One machine, two badges, and a reputation that spans the globe. The EX200 represents the moment Japanese excavator engineering became the world standard for the 20-ton class. It was so good that a 150-year-old American giant put its own name on it. It's tough, it's smooth, it's endlessly fixable, and it's still working on job sites right now. For proving that an old machine can be better than plenty of new ones, the Hitachi EX200 takes our #1 spot. Which of these did you run? Is there a classic digger you think we left off the list? Drop it in the comments. The best machine stories always come from the operators themselves. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe for more heavy metal history, and I'll see you in the next one.